Hello, my name is Winfried Winterstein from Döhler in Germany, and I'm happy to give you a presentation about our experiences on the workplace and with the SAP Workstream implementation. Okay, so what's on the agenda for today? I'll just give you a brief overview about the Döhler company, where I'm working from, and then directly get into the motivation for a digital workplace before I give you the first experience of the beta program, because we started early off with the beta of the product, which we'll also see today in an overview, and then also show you the first steps in our implementation project. So it's not finished yet, but I think it's good to show you and also give you some glimpse what we are planning then for the future and some lessons learned as well. Okay, let's dive into it. So who is Döhler? So Döhler is a company in the B2B market. So we don't sell to end customers. We are producing ingredients, flavors, colors, and also compounds, which comprises pretty much fruit, vegetable, and all the other ones stated before. And we do that here for the food and beverage industry. So you cannot see us in the supermarkets, but you probably will have already bought a product from companies which use Döhler as a supplier in that area. On the next slide here, you can see some KPIs. So we are roughly $2 billion US company. We have around 7,000 employees. I would say a quarter of them are still on the headquarters here in Darmstadt, Germany, and the rest is spread around the world, which you also can see in a minute. You can also see here we are really producing a lot, because we are manufacturing here in many plants and get fruits and vegetables and pre-process them. So that's really big amount of tons which we are processing. So many trucks are going in and out of factories to get all those quantities processed. We're working on many different products. We are inventing several products each day. And we also have many R&D experts all around the world, because taste is local. That means if we sell, for example, orange juice, it's different taste expected in South America than compared, for example, to Europe. Okay, next slide, you can see some pictures from some plants. We got 45 plants roughly around the world. You can see from the top left picture, it's still most in Europe, but we are growing also nowadays heavily outside Europe, but that's where we're coming from, as said before. So maybe now it's getting more into technical details, also the focus of this presentation today. Here you can see our SAP landscape. This is not our whole IT landscape, but it shows the main solutions based on SAP, business systems, and the supporting systems. For today, I think most important is then the orange box with the green frame around it, because the SAP Workstream we're talking about today. It's orange because orange on this slide means that this solution is not implemented yet, or it's not finished yet, but it's in implementation project. Maybe that's the right wording. But you can already see here we got many SAP solutions alone, which we definitely also want to integrate into a digital workplace. Starting off with our S/4HANA system, you can see on the left-hand side, and with the many modules, you can see that we are heavily using that system for pretty much all our core processes. It's already running at SAP for some 25 years and always upgraded, and now to the latest S/4HANA version to keep it always as current as possible. So that's an on-prem solution. We got some more on-prem solutions which we like to integrate later on. So it's maybe still interesting to see a bit more into detail here. But we also got some cloud solutions as well. If you see, for example, IBP, which will go live in November, that means once you see that it's already live. We got also C4C, Sales Cloud. We got SuccessFactors with several modules. We'll go live with Customer Data Cloud, which is not relevant for the workplace. Must mention here. I think interesting is the SAC for analytics, and also the GEM for the collaboration, and Concur, Ariba also for some other processes in different areas. That all definitely is in scope when we look into the SAP Workstream for the target picture. To enable all of that, we got the supporting systems. I think most of them you know it as an SAP customer, like Solution Manager and so on. Interesting here is also the front-end server in one of the boxes, because for that, we're using it now for centralizing all our Fiori UIs, and that definitely has to be touched as well when we're looking then into the work zone. And as you can see as well, we're also using SAP Cloud Platform for a while and using several modules. Interesting for here is then the IAS and IPS. The IAS is the Identity Authentication Service we're using for authentication, including single sign-on, and the Identity Provisioning Service, IPS, for provision the users out of our central directory, which is right now the Active Directory and could be in the future Employee Central, but that's to be decided. But based on that, we're pushing the users based on certain filters and criteria and different roles to all the cloud solutions, which you can see here on that picture, yeah? Be it IBP, GEM, C4C, and so on. Yeah? There's still some stuff to go there, but that's definitely what we want to use, and also want to use them in the SAP work zone area. Yeah. So that's it. I would say let's go a little bit deeper into the scope of the workplace. So what's the motivation for a digital workplace? If you see that on the initial situation on the next slide, you can see we are pretty much focused on innovation. As said before, we are inventing several products each day. Yeah, so that's somehow in our DNA. And for that, we are heavily using SAP solutions. Yeah. I always say we have an SAP first strategy, not SAP only, but SAP first. So we always challenging SAP products first to see if they can bring value to us for new processes which we want to digitize or extend. Yeah. And here we already saw some examples from the slide before. And our CEO also pushing that. Also during the COVID times, I think it's even more important to get, for example, in touch with your customers, but as well also with your employees, especially the ones which are not working as white collar, yeah, on their desks, or at home right now, like I do here. So we also want to get in touch with them. Yeah, we also got production sites as before, so we get many blue collar workers, which we also want to integrate into our digital processes. In addition, the lines of business were asking for some more innovation, yeah, which they can also somehow then use within our intranet, which we have right now, to enable more collaboration and more digital processes. Right now, we got the SAP Enterprise Portal running as our intranet. So every user, once he starts in our company, yeah, based on Citrix, always the browser comes up with our Enterprise Portal as intranet, which is a starting point. Yeah. We also got some mobile portals with some basic information, but I think even more important than the GEM collaboration, which we already use internally and externally. That was the reason why we also had 2 GEM boxes in the slides before. So beside that, we had some uncertainty about SAP's solution roadmap. What's about the GEM, how to continue with that? What about the Fiori? What about the portal? Yeah, so it was very, I think, important discussion. What's the leading front end and also the aggregation of user interfaces? Yeah, and so we wanted to have some feedback from SAP about that, and also definitely want to understand what's on the roadmap and to influence it where possible when there are some gaps which need to be filled so that it fits for us here at Döhler. Yeah, so what you can see right now here, that's a screenshot of our existing intranet. It's based on the SAP Enterprise Portal plus an add-on from Vantaio. So it does not really look like a plain vanilla SAP portal, but we thought it's a good combination using Vantaio add-on for the workframe. And also Vantaio provides some apps which we use, for example, like the News Center with a slider, which you can see in the top middle of that screen. For us, it's very important that we have a role-based access for employees. That means I get a personalized login, and I see also navigation points here only which are relevant for me. There's some basic navigation, but then you get some detailed navigation based on your role which you have at Döhler. Yeah? Could be your LOB role, but it could also, for example, be a management role if you are heading a team or a department. We have already integrated on-prem solutions. Yeah, we're coming from the history. It's already running the intranet portal. Oh, I have to think. I think 15 years. That's before my time I joined Döhler. But in the meantime, we also integrated several cloud solutions. Starting, for example, with the gem feed on the bottom right of the screenshot, plus C4C and so on. So the user should not really figure out, it doesn't have to know where he is working on. I think it's very important for us. Yeah, the user should not care about if it's on-prem, it's the cloud, and also not about authentication. They should always have a single sign-on. It's really prerequisite for us. So it's really seamless, at least in terms of navigation and getting to the functions. So it's really seamless in terms of what you get then there. Yeah, for example, if you go into SuccessFactors, you still get the portal from SuccessFactors. Also, you're not headless, but we're also working on that. What we're also using is documents in knowledge management, also important for later, because we have to think about where we're storing those documents then in the future. The top right, maybe it's a little bit specific to us. We got many Citrix-based applications, so we got a real low footprint on our PCs and laptops, because most applications we're running on Citrix, so it's easy to distribute and also to have homogeneous environment. Yeah. That also somehow has to be reflected then later on, because we still will have applications running in Citrix environment, not all in the cloud. We're also using Fiori apps. Yeah. They are part of the portal navigation, or we also have a button integrated. It's tough to see, I think, on that screenshot, where we can start the Fiori launchpad. Yeah. But it's already a downside, which we see, that you still have a launchpad and you cannot really slice and dice it, to get it to the navigation seamlessly. Yeah? So that's something which we also didn't like and where we looked for new solutions. So that's good starting point. The next slide, looking for a new solution. Yeah. So as said before, we want to reach out to all employees and not only providing some very basic information, but also provide more information depending also on how the users are authorizing. You can see this later on. Based on how you log on to the portal, you will then see some information or some more information. In Döhler, we have roughly 40% of all employees. They don't have PC or laptop access. They're production workers. They don't have email account from Döhler and so on. So if you want to integrate them into our communication, you definitely have to think about mobile apps and also bring your own device. Because for other employees, we have here company managed desktops, laptops, and also company managed mobile devices, be it smartphones or tablets, but that's only part of the people who are working at Döhler. Yeah. But still, I think very important to secure the deployment of information based on different levels of that information, because definitely we also have some very proprietary information which we want to keep. For example, for us, it's very important to keep recipes, specifications, and also our supplies. And that combination, I think it's very important for us to keep that at our side. In addition, business wants to get into more touch of that solution in terms of having control, building their own pages, starting pages, landing pages, and users being able to personalize that. So we also have less work and administration for the IT. Because right now it's pretty IT related. If you want to change something in intranet, you usually have to create a ticket for IT, and they have then to change it. Yeah? So if people can do it on their own, I think it's better for both sides, and that's definitely something we're looking for. So when then we talked to SAP, at some point in time said, oh, look, we got a new solution here, which is a beta program, which is called then SAP Workzone. I think at that point in time it was a different name, but doesn't matter. Now it's SAP Workzone. And why don't you look into that? Maybe it can cover your requirements. And we said, okay, then give it a try. So we joined the beta program to really get our hands on, based on our expectations, but also we took into our partner Mentire Unit, because I think it's very important that all the add-ons we had, they should also be available somehow then in the cloud, because we definitely see With the work zone in the cloud, we also have to get all our other solutions and add-ons also to the cloud. Otherwise, we cannot switch off the intranet, because that's something which you can see later on. That's on the roadmap. It's not really a date on it for now, but that's definitely on our agenda to then at some point in time switch off the intranet based on the SAP Enterprise Portal. So what was the scope of the beta program? It was running, we started in Q4 last year. It was easy migration from SubGem to the work zone. It was important for us. We already got much content there, hundreds of groups, so it should be easy to migrate them. We want to improve the corporate communication to cover all people at Döhler, as said before. We want to harmonize employee communities. We had different tools before, different access points. So we want to have it on one workplace and also have that all mobile. Maybe call it mobile first. But I think it's very important to say it shall all be possible to run mobile, so people can also run it on their own equipment. As I said before, we want to extend it with apps, custom developed apps from our side, from Ontario, and also from other partners, which we have in place or will have in place for the future. And also very important, we use our technology stack from the cloud platform with the IaaS and IPS, and that definitely has to be integrated. So it was already part of the beta program to at least integrate the IaaS. So what were the results of the beta program? The initial findings, the migration looked like pretty straightforward, because you're pretty much upgrading your existing gem tenant and adding some more features to that. We could definitely improve our communication and decentral content administration, because they can then define own areas where then users can define, for example, landing pages for a certain role, for example, for customer service. We want to definitely reach out to all employees, and the extensibility with UI5 integration cards, I think, was also very important for us, because we want to have somehow a teaser on some page, on the landing page, for example, and then you can make a deep dive into the transactions. So you don't want always people to go to in a transaction or to a report to check something, but they should directly see it with an integration card. And then, if necessary, take action and then drill down based on that card and perform some actions in then the corresponding system. What's on the wish list, which is not in place right now, for example, is Chat Messenger. I think there's a good integration with Microsoft Office products like Teams, for example, which we are not using at Döhler. So we have a third-party solution. So we definitely look for a solution how we can integrate that. Also very important is then to have a central inbox. The formerly known one inbox, I think now it's called Task Center. It's important for us that we really want to have one inbox for all work items and tasks, for work items coming out of on-prem systems as well as from cloud solutions. And that's not really easy. We have running the inbox here, my inbox right now in the intranet, and did a custom development for C4C, but we definitely don't want to do custom developments for all SAP cloud solutions. So solution here is then the Task Center, where we also participated in the beta program, which is also then on the cloud platform. And there we then have connectors to all the SAP cloud solutions, and definitely also important, and already asked for that, for on-prem solutions like our S4HANA system and the HCM. Definitely look for more SAP Fiori integration, be it on the cloud Fiori launchpad and widgets. Best would be to get them out of the box, so there's no custom development necessary. So we can get some easy wins here and gains out of those. And definitely look for more innovations to come, so we can more easily then adjust the workplace, the work zone to our needs, and also that the users can customize it to their needs. So the first steps in the implementation project, let's look into that. First of all, what's the architecture? Since we are the TechEd here, so it's very important to also have at least one architecture slide. This is the one. We are starting with the on-prem, because you can still see here, for example, that we have some systems running on-prem. Now, as an example, put in here the HCM system, which is then exposed via the front-end server, as said before, on the boxes slide with all the SAP systems. And that's then done via the cloud connector exposed, and then with the connectivity services on the cloud platform. We still have our enterprise portal here on the on-prem with the knowledge management for keeping the documents. And access to that, as I said before, can happen on the web browser via laptop or desktop or on the mobile. And all the users are coming from the Active Directory, so a starting point for user provisioning. On the left-hand side, you can see pretty much the picture of the work zone, and the work zone itself is not sufficient for that because definitely need integration with the portal service, with the central Fiori launchpad, which can be consumed then by the work zone. And this central Fiori launchpad from the portal can then consume information from the enterprise portal. I think it's very important then, since we will not do Big Bang to support hybrid scenarios where you have some information still on-prem and some in the cloud, and we only want to maintain information, be it page content, but also navigation structure, and we only want to maintain once, and then it shall be replicated, for example, here then to the cloud, as long as it's not all migrated to the cloud. And we need identity provisioning, identity authentication. I think a straightforward UI theme designer to make it compliant to Döhler theming. Mobile service also very important to get that all to the mobile devices. Then we also want to implement our own mobile app based on the Workzone app. You can in the future then extend it, I think, with the mobile development kit, and also want to use the workflow from the cloud. Search is very important in the future for sure, and also the inbox. And the add-ons, for example, stated here, Vantayo. Okay, that's pretty much then the what's running on the cloud platform. But as said before, we want to integrate services which are coming from SAP LOB, for example, like C4C, SuccessFactors, and so on. But we also got some specific requirements. For example, if you look into the two-factor authentication or the future multi-factor authentication, we'd like to integrate in Google Authenticator, which we're already using, authenticating on our Citrix portal if we're going from our own devices. I think translation service is very important for us because we're also now multinational, but we only want to maintain content once, and then it somehow should be translated automatically or click on a button, like you know it, for example, from LinkedIn. Llama Poll is it's for if your questionnaires to your employees, we're doing with Llama Poll, and Raccoon is something like Dropbox, which we're using here to store documents. This should be then also the storage of all our KM documents in the future. So we can then switch off also the KM functionality of the enterprise portal. So that's a pretty much big picture for time being. The target architecture would be pretty much everything like that, except taking out then the enterprise portal and knowledge management. Because the on-prem systems like the HCM system and the S4, which is not in this slide, will definitely stay on-prem at least for a couple of years. But as you all know, times are changing fast, so you don't never know what's in 3 to 5 years. Okay, what's the first step? So if you're looking into the SAP Workstream product, you will realize once you want to buy it, there are two flavors out there in the market. The one is the PNT, Platform Technology version, and the other one is SAP Workstream for HR. So scenario one, for HR, that's pretty much pre-configured for HR, and you can use it in that context, also workflow and so on, but only with relation to HR and SuccessFactors, but not as a generic workflow service, for example. Scenario two is interesting for you if you want to use it more or less like a technology stack. You might have already workflow licenses in the cloud and IaaS and IPS, and maybe also mobile services, then you can go for that. And you can go for scenario two as well if you have already Jump running on the new stack on IaaS and IPS. And scenario one would make more sense if you're running Gem on the BizX platform from before. If you're not too much into that topic, I think then please get in touch with your SuccessFactors and Gem experts to see what really makes sense for you. I think scenario two is a valid one, as I said before. I think you really have to look into it into detail to see what really fits. before you buy the licenses, that's for sure. I think there's still some additional licenses necessary because, as you've seen before, we're using additional services from the cloud platform, be it the portal, the workzone itself, and so on, so that you can really run your digital workplace then based on SAP Workzone. So here's much text to cover. I think it's very important information, what we want to achieve. First of all, we did once a technical upgrade from our SAP Gem. So there's some certain steps, onboarding guide available, then also in the SAP help, which then guides you how you can upgrade your Gem tenant to a SAP Workzone tenant. They can already realize you have to work on the cloud platform and Cloud Foundry environment. Also, you know where all the other services which you're using to get the Workzone based on Gem together. Yeah. For us, very important to have different access layers. So there's something we also have to implement and configure. So we have somehow a layer model that we say the more secure the information is, the more you have to do for that. Yeah? So you have to drill down. The more you want to drill down, the more you have to provide in terms of security. So if you log on, for example, as a user with bring your own device with username and password, that's pretty weak. So you only get some basic information. Yeah. If you want to see more, then we need at least a second factor from your side, for example, with the Google Authenticator, and then you can get access to more information. It's also IP address driven. That means when you're in the Döhler network, yeah, or you have a mobile device here with VPN or direct access to Windows, then you can already get also more information because we know where you're coming from in a secure environment. And also on the laptops, for example, you cannot download anything. So it's a pretty safe environment. Implementation we are checking right now is based on the IAS, Identity Authentication Service. We also have X509 certificates on our managed device, which we can use, and two-factor with Google Authenticator, for example. So right now we're building something to really make sure that we only provide critical information, which we then have to categorize together with the business to the right security level. Then we want to migrate horizontal processes. Yeah, we already got some ideas. For example, absence requests and shift plan postings, so some HCM processes, and also compensation and benefits from SuccessFactors. So we get some processes from on-prem system and from cloud. And there we also then want to provide that first because every user somehow has a touch point to those processes. And there we also want to provide deep links and eventually UI integration cards because we don't want to open up a new portal like SuccessFactors, but directly then make a deep dive to the relevant screens. Yeah. At the same time, we already started to migrate a vertical role because I think we also have then to prove to our users that we can also cover everything for a user, yeah, which is role-based, as I said before, based on the SAP Workzone. I think it's still a way to go, but that will also be a proof point for us to show that everything's working. So we definitely will take then a role which does not need maybe all connectivities, but having some on-prem systems, some cloud systems for sure, to make sure that this can be all covered. You know, transactional transactions, analytics, and so on as well. Then we have got the Inventario apps I said before. We want to use then the cloud versions, which are already available now. Also then in the work center, in the work zone, in those areas, and want to integrate existing enterprise portal content because we will not migrate everything with a big bang, as said before. So we definitely are looking for a hybrid approach where we can then share pages from the on-prem with the cloud and also parts of the navigation. So we can define some sub-navigation in the on-prem and then get it to the cloud as well. We want to integrate our Dropbox based on Raccoon. We want to integrate local inboxes via Task Center, so we only have really one inbox, yeah? And also our chat tool into that. And also use central service here, identity provisioning, to get the users to all the systems so the users can have access to that where it's needed. Yeah. Definitely always role-based. We don't need every user in our system. Would definitely also cost more money, depending on the licensing model for sure. But we definitely want to use a central service for that. That's for us IPS when we go for the cloud. So that's still some stuff to go. So what are the lessons learned so far? If you look into that, I think it's straightforward to say that if you're starting off here with a new product, there's definitely new things coming, and therefore you have to get some experience, hand-on experience. Not everything is working at day one, but that's also fine for us because we said we are very early in that, and we can also give some feedback, and already some feedback has been incorporated into the product. Yeah? So we see that it's a better fit for us. To be mentioned as well is that complexity increases since SAP Workzone is a bracket around several cloud services, and you have to somehow get them all together. Yeah? As you've seen before, we have the workflow, we have inbox, we got the mobile. This all has somehow to play together. So we really get a good solution, which has also a seamless integration for the end users. Should really look like very easy. And as you know, making something look like very easy is sometimes very hard, not sometimes very often very hard. Let's put it this way. So I think it's way to go. We got some experience already. I think we are already working with the cloud platform for 4 years. So we already know some of the services. So we think that we can handle that, but definitely that's adding complexity. And this next point, also very important, this is not an IT project to go to a digital workplace. Yeah, I'm coming from IT, yeah, so I can say provide you a new tool and then be my guest. But I think that's not really the end of the story. We really have to get the buy-in here from business because we should not really copy one-to-one what we've done with the enterprise portal because, for example, some use case were not possible with the enterprise portal, with UI cards and so on, we did not have in place. We did not put in there via the launchpad. So people should really think about the departments and so on, how they can really leverage the new options. Hopefully most of the stuff is then coming from SAP. Besides that, I think there's definitely also still some custom development necessary or get some add-ons from partners. So that's way to go, and also I think a learning curve necessary for the departments. But at the end of the day, there was already the request from the business that they can really also maintain stuff on their own. So now they have the tool to do it. So we have to give them training on that, how to do it. So in the future, they can really set up their own content. And as he only, maybe only, only means is provide the content areas or the buckets where they can get content out of it. So like with the Central Fiori Launchpad, we can then provide all the tiles, for example, the Fiori apps, which are possible. And then the users can drag and drop them pretty much then on their own into an LOB or their own area within the work zone. Definitely all that has to be covered by security. That means you cannot then start off some transactions or reports which you were not allowed before. So that definitely will not be changed. And that's also not part of the SAP work zone. That's still handled then by the authentication services and also by the authorizations in the backend systems. For us, for example, with the SAC, many authorizations are still coming out of the BW in the background because we're doing live connection. So the work zone is no way around to get access to those data. Okay, what are the next steps? Well, continue with the implementation project. You've seen that we started the journey. We're not finished. We really want to, this year, really start them with one horizontal use case or some horizontal use cases and one vertical role. Also setting up hybrid scenarios. For that, we're also right now doing a portal upgrade on the on-prem, which we have to do on our own because it's not a cloud solution. That's the downside of having something on-prem, but we have to fulfill some requirements to be able to integrate that. And then we, as said, we can migrate the roles. We want to use the mobile app from the work zone and adjust it, and then also make it available via the stores so that also employees can access those apps via their own devices. And final target, way to go, I'm not sure. If you're talking about months or years, probably we'll talk more about years, that we can at some point in time switch off the on-prem enterprise portal, including the knowledge management with the documents, and also then switch off our on-prem central hub front-end server. We're running into the issues anyways, because right now we are implementing additional S4HANA system for EWM. And if you're looking to S4HANA 2020, the front-end server also does not support anymore ERP backend systems for a central hub. So we also have to think about that. Maybe then already pushing HR Fiori apps and already directly to the work zone. That said, I'm done for the presentation. And later on, you can see my email address, and I'm happy to get some feedback from your side and also some questions. Thank you.